that'll do it. Should be all right.
Right, you tell me, am I looking blessed though? What I say? Yeah, we're blessed.
You're looking blessed, mate. Aaron, welcome to the podcast. This is the Keep in Focus podcast.
Yeah.
On this podcast, we discuss your journey to success. Aaron here is a successful entrepreneur. He's the owner of a brand called Blunt, which, if I was to summarise your brand, I'd say you have a physical presence as a barbershop, but it's more than that. It's more of a lifestyle brand that
for sure
promotes masculinity and style.
Yeah, all of that.
And how would you, in your own words, describe what Blunt is?
Well, I mean, Blunt's really simple. It's blunt, yeah. We're straight to the point. We're not really fucking around. I mean, and the main thing is, it kind of underpins my values, which are, you know, just be blunt, be upfront with people. You know, if someone's got a shit haircut and it doesn't suit them, tell them it's a shit haircut. You need to tell them. No one else is going to tell them, you know. Yeah. So, like you say, I mean, we're trying to kind of branch out more into a brand because there's only so much hair you can cut, and really we want to be generating a revenue from online sales, you know, kind of selling things online, just because it's more, it's, you know, wow, it's just more money at the end of the day. So, yeah.
So with that in mind then, you have built a brand today, you have a successful business, you've got big aspirations. Mm-hmm. Looking historically then, if I was to ask you to describe your journey to success, where would you start that journey and just take me on it?
Yeah, I don't think I'm successful yet. Obviously, I'll sound like a bit of a knob here, but I think, you know, of course, we're always pursuing success, and I don't think I'm there yet. But let's just say there was definitely a turning point, because when I was younger, when I left school, I kind of had the conventional jobs that everyone has, you know, went into retail, worked at JD, kind of stacked shelves, folded clothes, which was soul destroying. You know, there might be people out there doing that today, but it's terrible. You don't want to work in retail. It's fucking shit. Anyway, then I ended up in, you know, I always wanted to be successful, somewhat successful. So then I ended up in an apprenticeship because I hated academia. I'm quite rebellious, as you probably know. I don't really like authority. And I sure as hell don't like bosses a lot of the times. They can be really fucking annoying, especially in retail jobs that sew up their own arse. But yeah, it's weird how I fell into barbering. My mate had a haircut. I attempted to fix it with like this little shit clipper that I had at home. And the rest is history, really. Just fucking blagged my way up to here, you know. So, but I think the turning point, weirdly, was probably around 2012 when Donald Trump got elected, yeah? Because I used to be very kind of emotional. I used to be quite left of field. You could say effeminate, and then I realised it's not a good way I want to be, you know. I want to have a goal, I want to progress towards it, and I want to be proud of having a goal, you know, and proud of working hard, because like every other man on the planet, I want to be really successful, I want to have good money, I want to have lots of women around me, great women around me, and great people around me as well, genuine, honest people. I don't know if that covers your question, I'm just talking at this point, so.
No, I'm keen to understand a little bit more, like step by step. So you had these retail jobs, it was destroying your soul.
Yeah.
You had a mate of yours who wanted a trim, you gave it a go.
Yeah.
Was there like a moment in that journey where you thought, actually, I just want to work for myself? Or did that happen over time when you were in the barbershops and you thought, you know what, this can be done better?
I think the catalyst for going into barbering is the independence behind it. You ain't going to make fucking loads of money. There's this idea that being a barber, you can make so much money behind the chair. And yeah, you can make quite a lot of money cutting hair behind the chair, but it's only equivalent to the time you put in. So you still got to work very hard in order to get a return, you know. But the main thing was the freedom, the fact that I didn't really have to answer to anyone, and you're in charge of how successful you are or how good you get or how competent you are. So whereas a lot of jobs, you work there and you want to progress quicker than the other people. It seems as if some people are happy in their job role, kind of moving slowly, but I want to move quickly. And what I loved about barbering is it kind of gave you that opportunity to become really good quickly if you worked hard. Because there's people that have been cutting hair for 30 years and they're terrible at it, you know. So I kind of found out that it's about how quickly you, how much work you put in, how competent you are. Are you going to carry... I mean, there's loads of people that do the same shit every day and they don't get any better. So it's all about how many risks you're willing to take. I mean, think about it. It's a risk. It's kind of a risky job. It's only hair. But if you fuck someone's hair up, they're not going to be very happy. So you've got to think, I want to get better at this. So for me to get better, I need to implement risk. But what's great about hair is you can implement those risks on an individual basis, you know. So you get one person in the chair, you cut their hair once, you're like, I can improve here, I can improve there. So all you do is next time you do exactly the same, but you try and improve or you try and make it easier, you know. So it's so good because every client you see, if you really want to become good, you can just keep, you know, incrementally, very small incremental kind of steps you can get better. But to answer the question, it's the freedom to it. It's quite a rebellious job. That's why it's so hard to employ people because it's such a rebellious industry, you know. Yeah.
And when was the moment where you thought, doing this as a profession,
yeah,
I want to progress faster. Actually, the logical next step for me is I think I can do this by myself.
So like the segue then per se, what you're saying is when did you
take on your first shop and why?
There's a couple of points there. Regarding the shop, when I took it on, you know, I always wanted to have my own shop. More than anything, I just wanted to have my own business because I felt like there was this serotonin release you get when it's your business, it's yours. Mm-hmm. I used to fucking hate it when people would go, is this yours or is this part, you know, you put in loads of work in and they'd ask if it was yours. And it wasn't. It's like, well, what the fuck am I doing? It's like, I work here, it's great, I love working here. But, you know, I want to see a result from the work that I put in, you know. So, remind me of the question. The question was...
When did you open your first shop?
Open the shop, yeah. I mean, it's really bizarre, actually. There's a guy that's kind of known locally around here who kind of... I need to stop saying... a guy around here that basically what he does is he renovates listed buildings. And he had a listed building, this cellar, and it was up for rent. I don't know if he couldn't find people to go in there. So I messaged him, and initially I messaged him because I wanted to do a photo shoot. I wanted to do something cool. This is what I like barbering as well, is you can fuck around and do whatever. You can go and... it's a great creative outlet per se. And I really wanted to use this guy's location for a photo shoot because he just had really cool locations. He was a fucking really cool guy. And he said, look, I've got this location. It might be a good barbershop. Why don't you come and have a look? And at the time I was 21. And I'm like, yeah, of course I want to fucking have a look. You know, let's have a look. I go down there. It was on a place called Water Street. And it was in a cellar, super fucking cool. So imagine I walk in there, and funnily enough, this was the first time I met this guy, and he ended up being my business partner, the guy that owns the building. But he was like, you know, the first time I met him, I walk into his place, and it was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. And there's always that you want to kind of associate with these kind of people as well, you know. But basically, we go into this guy's building. And he goes, this could be a barbershop. And I'm like, fuck it, yeah, it could be whatever if it's going to, you know, make it work for me. At that point, I just wanted anything. So he ends up saying you can use this space. And I said, yeah, I'd love to, but I want you to design it. I said, you're the architect, you're the interior designer. Can you design it? And he said, yeah, cool. So he designs it, makes it look fucking sick as well, because he's shit hot. He owns a company called Javelin Block. Beautiful buildings, incredible, really talented guy. And he does this whole shop up, mint, brass fixtures, you know, chandelier when you walk down the stairs, full parquet floor, Tudor panelling. It has a bar in there. It's beautiful. And he says, it's all done now, you know, get ready to go. And I went, that's great. He said, how do you want to pay? I said, I haven't got any money. And that's how it happened.
Conversation earlier.
I said, sorry, mate, you've done a great job, but I actually haven't got any money. And he said, okay, I wish you told me that in advance. But
why didn't you tell him that in advance?
Because I hadn't got any
You're
fucking money.
naive.
And it's like, I still want it to happen, don't I? And, you know, sometimes you just got to fucking do it. And this guy's got loads of money, you know. And he got his money back, of course. So, you know, but, you know, he's a really nice guy. Thank God he was a nice guy, because otherwise who knows what would have happened. But, yeah, so then I ended up in this unit on Water Street that was really cool. Yeah.
There's a bit of luck in there, isn't there? I think always in every journey there's a bit of luck, because you've stumbled across this guy.
Yeah.
You've got to know him a bit, and then through the power of blag, you've been like, well, I don't have any money, but we can set up something and make it pay for itself. So is that how you got it set up? So it was like, look, I'll come in there, I'll run it, we'll go 50-50, I'll pay you back. Yeah.
So the way it was set up logistically was, it was set up as a limited company. Mm-hmm. There was 2 shareholders. So I suppose what he's doing, the benefits for him are as follows. He's got a retail space that's untenanted, and he can't get tenants in there because you can't have a bar in there, because it's a cellar and there's residents on the first floor. Mm-hmm. So it means you get noise complaints. So you can't have a bar. You also can't have food there because there's residents above, so you can't get the licensing for it. So really the only thing you can have in there is either retail or like a service-based shop like ours. So I kind of realised that, you know, you can't really put anything else. You can't put anything else down there anyway, and that's why it's still for sale. No one's taken it over since we moved out. Yeah.
So you got in there, things started kicking on. You had your own place, but where you're at now, for anybody that doesn't know, you've got a fantastic location,
right in a great spot now,
right in a very prestigious area of Birmingham in St Paul's Square. Mm-hmm. What was the journey like in there? Because how did you come across that place?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's almost like everything that's happened regarding the shop has happened so awfully conveniently, and it's like a story. It's like a story where you try and get out of it or stay in it, but it keeps you there. So, like I mentioned, the first shop that I had was on Water Street. That story, obviously, I went into. That we had some issues because it flooded, essentially. Okay. So, funnily enough, it's on a street called Water Street. It's in a cellar.
It's a bit of a clue.
Yeah, it's a bit of a heads up. But it used to flood terribly. At one point, it was, you know, you'd have. I mean, it's never good when you've got clients in and there's water pissing out of the wall. It just doesn't look good. So, of course, my business partner, he owned the building, so he had vested interest in me wanting to be in that building because he can't really let it out to anyone else. So basically I said to him, look, we're going to have to fucking move because it's flooding. I can't have clients coming in paying £34 for a haircut. It's supposed to be a good service and they're treading through water, obviously, you know. So basically I said to him, we're going to move. There was still time left on the lease. It got a little bit tricky then, but luckily he's a great guy and we made it work. We made it work anyway. We ended up basically we shut the shop a week before lockdown, which was really bizarre. So I closed the shop and initially I was going to actually move to America illegally because fuck it, why not? I thought I want to move to the States. Maybe I'll marry a girl over there. I can barber over there because that's another great thing about barbering. Obviously, you can just cut hair wherever you want to cut. And yeah, we shut the shop because of this flooding issue. a friend of mine that owns Indian Brewery, a guy that you should get on this podcast actually, Jaspal, he came and helped me move all of the furniture, and he stored it in his warehouse. And then obviously a week later we went into a lockdown, a lockdown, so everyone had to close. Here's me thinking, shit, I don't want to lose my clients. They're going to go to the barbershops. And then we were forced into that lockdown, weren't we, which was a load of bollocks. But anyway, we were forced into that. And then and at that point I'm thinking, I'll just sell everything in the shop, use that money, fly over to the States, and just fucking whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
But then they lock the borders, so I can't even fly to the States. So I'm thinking, and then a day later, I see that the unit that we're in now on St. Paul Square is up to let. And it just all happened in such an awfully convenient fashion where, you know, I kind of believe that you shouldn't plan anything in life. So when it came up and I'm like, well, I've got this money, I don't know what to do. I can't be sitting down doing fuck all for 2 years waiting for the borders to open to America. Who knows what was going to happen? It was such an unprecedented thing, you know. So I thought, fuck it, we'll just take it. So we took it on. I was having a back and forth with the new landlord, a guy who I get on very well with now. But at first we were arguing over the phone. You know,
Why?
he cut the phone off.
About? Because
I think I wanted it a little bit cheaper, and he wanted to see all this stuff, and you know, he wanted to see all these 2 years books, all this, and I said, look, mate, you know, I had a shop around the corner, it works, it's gonna fucking work, basically, and I blanked him as well, and then we put the deposit down on that, and in that lockdown period, me and my cousin. Thank God to my cousin as well, but we just ripped it out. We did it all by hand. So we ripped all the tiles up by hand, pulled the suspended ceiling down. It used to be an off license, you see. I reckon the geezer was selling drugs in there. But anyway, it used to be an off license. We fucked everything off, demolished it all, and did as much work as we can on our own. And then we didn't finish. The lockdown, it kind of opened up. And we reopened the shop, but it wasn't finished. So we had like mirrors on the floor, but we just fucking thought, fuck it, we'll get open anyway. We need to get some money in, you know, start generating some income. Plus everywhere else was opening. The lockdown was over. Everyone wanted to start working. We'd kept these guys on. Let's just fucking go, man. Who cares if the mirrors are on the floor? Keep it real, man. Leave them on the floor. No one gives a fuck, really. You know, what people want is a good haircut, and they don't give a fuck if there's flood water on the floor or a mirror on the floor. Obviously, I don't want it to be like that. But so then we just opened the shop and then just incrementally started fixing it up. But yeah, that's how we moved over. If I am dragging on the points, just tell me as well, because I do drag.
No, I mean, like
I've had 2 coffees in the last 10 minutes.
The whole point of this is to go through those step by step.
Yeah.
Like what's happened in the journey. So
yeah,
don't feel like you're dragging on. Like I want to hear about it. I want to pick up on a few things that you've said. Mm-hmm. One of which was you chose to take on a premises at the start of a lockdown, right? Which I think for any rational person would think that's a bit of a daft move given the state of things.
The situation.
Yeah.
At the time.
I mean, like we took on a premises at the start of lockdown as well. Got a good price, better price for it. I don't know if you were a beneficiary of that with yours.
Not great.
But it was a bit of a risky move, but I want to speak to you about the lockdowns because for a business like yours, service business, barbering, that was a bit challenging, right? Having those lockdowns going on, and there was a bit of defiance underway on occasions.
Oh yeah. I mean, barbers were just cutting hair anyway. Yeah. I mean, let's be really upfront if we're getting into it was all bollocks. We reopened because, you know, the service industry, and especially barbering, it had been shown to be one of the most hygienic places. So one of the places that you wouldn't transmit infection. Plus barbers, you're required to wear gloves. You're required to be sanitary. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't good, but you could say it was a risk, but I didn't really look at it like that. We just did it because there was nothing else to do. I just did it because we've got to do something. I'm not going to sit down doing fuck all. So it's like the shop's there, the money's there, we've got this period of time where everybody else is closed. It makes perfect sense to do it. Do you know what I mean? In my head, although you could argue that maybe it wasn't a good time. But yeah, we did. We got locked down. We reopened in the lockdown. Me and a guy that worked for me, Shafi, we reopened, and then obviously that's a whole different kettle of fish. And then we got shut down by the police there. I mean, I think it's important to say that I feel like your life is like a story, isn't it? Like if I was to, and now I'm kind of realising it, that everybody's life is almost like a film. It's like a story. It's your own personal story. And, you know, when I started, I always wanted to do the opposite of what my mum told me to do, because I used to live when I lived at home. So, you know, my mum would say, don't smoke weed. You'd make me want to smoke weed. Whatever your mum tells you not to do, you want to do. And my mum was she overly worried about a lot of things, especially you need to work in this place, you need to be in a job, you need to do this. And I'd be like, I don't want to do that. And I had this gut feeling that it weren't right. But my mum would kind of plant this thing in my brain. They're trying to look after you. But they're almost imposing their fears on you, which is understandable because, you know, of course, they're your parents and they're there to protect you. But I think, you know, when you hit a certain age, there comes a point where you go, it's not about that. You need to kick your kids out and let them fend for themselves. And when I did move, that's when I started adopting risks, because I didn't have my mum in my ear saying, don't do that. It could end very badly. I know it could end badly, but I'm not a pussy, so I'm going to take the risk anyway, otherwise we're not going to get anywhere. But yeah, back to what I was saying, I think everything's like a story, so it felt like everything up to that point was a story. You know, my political views changed at like the start of 2012. Bizarrely, it just happened. And then obviously this thing happened with the lockdown. And, you know, I feel like in everyone's life, it doesn't matter what you do, how high you are up on the status level, there'll come a point when you have to stand up for something you believe in some way. And you can be all talk. What I do a lot of is ranting instead of acting. So a lot of people rant, but at some point in your life, there'll be something that comes along and says, are you going to stand up for your beliefs? Do you really believe in what you believe in, or is it all talk? And that was what happened with the barbershop when they locked us down. At first, I was like, maybe it's right, maybe it's fair, but then it contradicted with my beliefs. And I thought, fuck these motherfuckers, I'm going to reopen. It was a laugh. We had a laugh. Nobody got hurt. You know, you could argue that loads of people died. I don't give a fuck. Fuck them all. Fuck them all. I don't want people to die, but, you know, you've got to do what you've got to do. You've got to earn a living. And you've got to stand up for, and the main thing is you've got to stand up for what you believe in, because I don't know if it's similar for you, but like any good story, there'll come a point in the masculine character role when you have to stand up for something, you have to take a risk. People are going to turn against you. And that's what life's about as a man is. I feel like that's where you find nobility. That's where you find serotonin, because it's like I'm comfortable in my beliefs and I'm not afraid to stand up for them, regardless what people say, you know. So
let me pick up on that.
Go on.
Because there's something that you've said that I don't think I've actually even spoken with you just in general when we've hung out before. You said previously, or when you were younger, you had what you might have described as more effeminate views. And then in 2012, you went through a little bit of a rebirth of your belief system. Now, I want to understand, what were they before? Why weren't you comfortable with them? And why did the rebirth come?
Well, I think it's really simple to explain, actually. I think I'm shaking because I've had so much coffee.
It's nice that though, isn't it?
It's good coffee, that is. Fair play, fair play. So, I think, where was we then?
So you're effeminate.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's more that when I was younger, my mum and dad were separate, you know. And my dad always wanted, he was always, don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. Work hard. You're only as good as how hard you work. We used to go on runs. My dad was in the army. He was quite regimental like that. He never swore. You wouldn't leave the table until you finish your food. But my mothers, I think, if something goes wrong, they have a tendency to make it look like it went wrong because you're a victim. So, let me sum this up. I think I was very angry when I was younger. I was very angry and I was very emotional, but I think that's because I felt like a victim. I always wanted to be a victim. It was like a competition of how much of a victim I could be or how much of a victim other people could be. So if something weren't happening, I'd blame someone else for it rather than blame myself. And then one day I realised that you really can't blame anyone else. You can only blame yourself for things. And as soon as that happened, akin to that, my political views changed. It went over the other way. I feel like one side of the political allegiance is then benefits off you being a victim. And the other side, you can't be a victim. The other side is, you get what you deserve. It's like you fucked up. It's your own fault. You get what you deserve. So I feel like as soon as you step out of that victim mentality per se, which you hear a lot about these days, but the idea is, well, you're just not being a victim anymore. You're saying, I am responsible for myself. If I make a mistake, it's my own fault. You get what you deserve. As soon as that happens and you realise that, your political views change, because it doesn't align with that way of looking at the world, being responsible for yourself. Doesn't align with the other political party, which is everybody's a victim. You're in this position because somebody's held you down. I didn't want that anymore. It's like I don't want to have a proverbial hand, whoever it is. I know I'm white, and the idea is it's all down to the categories. But in any case, I don't want to be a victim. I want to be rich. I want to be successful. I want to have serotonin released in my body. I don't want to be a weird victim that. There's no virtue to that. There's no nobility in being a victim, So that's how it segued. Yeah, that's how it's. And it almost happened at the same time that I moved out, because of course when you move out, you have to adopt responsibility. That's why I think it's important for children to move out at a young age, at 18, because everything changes because you have responsibilities, which everyone knows, but no one says it these days. People live at home until they're 30. It's very strange.
Yeah. Let me pick up on that then. So I'm curious to understand that transition, but with your business, what I see, and this is what I was talking about when I opened this podcast up, beyond just being a barbershop, you've created a brand that has a very strong focus on like masculinity and style and men not having to be something that's effeminate. You can be masculine, and I want to I think you've built a really, really solid brand. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
And I think a lot of people buy into it, and that's why it's been successful. But I want you to describe more to me about that brand and what your vision for it is.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's changed. I mean, originally when I first opened, it was like, it's just got to be a nice place. And originally it was all about the skill level. So everybody needs to be a specific skill level, which I still like. But as times have changed, I think my goals are more, I mean, we have specific goals, but then we also have like an overarching theme that we base everything on. Almost like an ideology then per se that businesses have a lot of the time. And the main thing with me is that we're a barbershop. We cut men's hair. Yeah. We cut men's hair. We don't cut women's hair. We work with men, So it makes no sense. I mean, we want to make men strong, not weak. We don't want to, we're only fucking barbers at the end of the day, but you feel good when you've had a good haircut and a haircut that suits you. So I think our main thing is, we want to make men look the best they can possibly look, and that is down to their age. That's down to multiple factors. You know, that's the main thing. It's like masculinity. It's a barbershop. We want to make men look good. Everything we do is going to be based around that. You know, everything's style based. We also want it to be like timeless. I'm kind of ranting on a little bit here, but it's quite hard to put into words.
So I think you have a unique approach, like you've described there, which, you know, you can go into any barbershop and you'll get the same short back and twat, and everybody comes out looking exactly the same. I think like if I would describe it from like an external perspective, you've built in more of an experience to the kind of consultation, where instead of it being like, come in, sit down, what do you want, and you have a bit of a chat, it's you charge a premium for it, which I think, you know, you've justified that price, because when people go in, you take them through a process of going, instead of, if they go, I want a fade, and a fade's going to look terrible on them.
Yeah, we tell them.
You tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that goes back to one of the, sorry to cut you off, but that goes back to one of the fundamental values. You know, we're honest with people. You know, there's no point lying to people to keep a client. The point is, you want to be honest with people. You need to, if somebody hasn't got a beard, then if they're trying to grow one out and it looks like shit and they ask you to line it up, there's a way to say it, of course, but you want to say, actually, mate, you could look better if you don't have that. That's giving you a broad example. But yeah, we definitely need to be honest with people. That's one of the main things. Yeah.
Last couple of questions then.
Go on, fire away.
So before we wrap up, I've got 2 more questions to ask you.
Yeah.
The first one is, the name of this podcast is Keeping Focus.
Yeah.
Right? In that journey of, you know, being an entrepreneur towards success, there's distractions, there's doubt, there's a number of things that can get in your way. How have you kept focused to get to where you are?
The answer is, I ain't as focused as I'd like to be. Yeah, that's the first thing. If you're the kind of guy that looks at yourself and goes, oh, I've worked really hard, I'm really focused, then you probably haven't been that focused or worked that hard. I'm always thinking I need to be more focused. I need to work harder. That's always going through my head. I need to succumb to less temptation. That's always going through my head. There's let's say, a ongoing battle in my head of, should I do this or should I do that? Should I do the right thing or should I do the wrong thing? Should I be focused or should I go out tonight? Or should I smoke some weed today or should I do some work? Or that's constantly going on. So I'd come back at you and say, I'm not as focused as I'd like to be. And I suppose the only way you can get more focused is by having a goal and finding a way to achieve that goal. You know, almost working backwards from the goal. I don't know, how does it work for you?
Oh, it's a good question. I think what you described there with goals, I think is very important. I think for me, that working backwards is the most important step. So whenever I was considering something which was a project that we need to do for the business, or how do we get it to the next phase, it's all well and good saying, oh, well, the next phase is over here, but then the how to get there is the most important thing. And what looks like a big task isn't really a big task. It's numerous small tasks.
Yeah.
It's doing them consistently.
Yeah, and they
having
add up.
and
Compounds.
having the discipline to do them as well. So I think, like, for me, like, being able to see progress towards a goal achieving is very important. So instead of going, I want to run an ultra marathon, you've got to go, okay, I'm going to run every day in January, and then I'm going to do 10 miles,
small goals.
20 miles.
Yeah,
you've got to have those benchmarks. And I suppose, like, just having a long-term view of where you want to take something as well. Like, in the next 2 years for this business, you know, we've got a real strong foothold in Birmingham as a video production, film production brand. So the next step is, well, we're going to go more national, and we've got a strategy in place to do that, and it's being executed as we speak. And then next year, we want to go and have more of an international presence, and we've also got a strategy going on over 2 years of how we execute that as well. But yeah,
nice. Do you not think? Let me just say this quickly because I know you got to rush.
No stress.
This is something. We should, like I say, we should do this again.
We will do it.
Have a longer time, more casual. Maybe smoke a joint as well, so more casual. But do you find that sometimes having a plan can set you back though? Because sometimes I find that if you have too much of a plan, it stops you from taking what's in front of you, grabbing hold of what's in front of you. So an example would be, back to the story I said earlier about changing shop. If I had had this set plan, then I might not have done that. You know, let's say I'd changed my mind and then the plan was I'm going to the States. And then 2 years later, when the lockdown opened up, I've lost all my money because I've spunked it all. And none of it will come into fruition. So what I'm saying to you is sometimes having a plan, rather than just having, you know, a way that you live, you do things that need to be done in the moment, you'll end up somewhere good. Do you know what I mean? Rather than planning, sometimes it's like, that can hold you back. That could have held me back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know what? It makes complete sense. And I agree with you in many regards. I think, like, you have to be adaptable to be successful in business. Like, there's going to be opportunities that present themselves where you might not have foreseen it, but it's a good opportunity. Like when we started this, we actually started a podcast, me and Connor. We didn't start a video production business. And then we got to the 10th episode and thought, well, we're not making any money out of this at the moment. But some bloke that I used to work with who ran a sales consultancy was like, I need some videos. And I was like,
see, then you could have gone, oh, we're not going to do any videos. We're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
We've planned on this podcast. We're going to get 1 million subscribers in a year. And then look at what the fuck's happened if from that small decision.
Change,
The smallest the decision of, well, we'll just go with the flow rather than this is my plan. I'm going to get a mortgage. I'm going to get kids. I'm going to do... Fuck all that off. Don't have a plan.
I agree that when opportunities present or when things come up, you should be adaptable. But I think a lack of plan means that you haven't got a focus to get to somewhere. And I think you do need, especially like individually and even more so when you're working as a team, you need to have a direction that you're working towards. Like, say I just described working more nationally than internationally over the next 2 years. That is the overall goal.
The overarching goal.
We've got a few ways that we're working on.
What about if someone comes along and says, we want to go international before you go national? Would you then go, hang on, we want to go national first? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like, let me just, like, I'll have to explain a little bit more about what it is. So we have an opportunity to learn how to operate international this year. So we're going to do that anyway with clients, and we have worked abroad before. But having a presence abroad, is a different thing. In order for us to have a presence abroad, like a key strategy for us is SEO. You know, that delivers
Google,
a lot.
Is that search optimization?
Yeah, top of Google, right? Yeah. So for us to get top of Google somewhere in, say, New York or like Toronto or wherever it may be.
There's a strategy to do that.
And it also takes time.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have to invest like 6 to 12 months to do it.
Okay.
So then we need to have...
Is that something you can do when you're not even there? So you could do that here and then...
So we can work on that, and then we don't need to have permanent officers there straight away. We can outsource, maybe send 1 or 2 crew over where necessary, and then when the scale becomes enough, then we get a permanent location there and we maybe have permanent people there. Yeah. That's bit by bit. Anyhow, final question. Aaron, right? Yeah. Wait, we've got time.
Go on, I'll briefly answer.
No. So, right, as a filmmaker, my final question to you is what your favourite film is and why?
The Coen brothers, The Big Lebowski.
Okay.
The Big Lebowski. Maybe there's a few more in there, but I think when people ask me that, it's usually the Lebowski. Just because he's the fucking dude, and he don't care, he's nonchalant. Whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens, happens. And I think that's a good motto, because you look at him, you know, fucking mad shit happen. Have you seen The Big
I've
Lebowski?
not seen it. No.
Well, there you go. You need to watch The Big Lebowski. All of the Coen brothers films are fucking sick. Fargo, The Big Lebowski. Let me think if I can name any others. That's all I can name off the top of my head. But yeah, it's good. Like, I think it's a good mantra to live by as well, isn't it? Whatever. A guy once said to me, nothing in this world is stressful enough to worry about. Nothing in this world is serious enough to worry about, you know. So, you know, and that's a good point. At the end of the day, we're all gonna go away. You crash in your car, or somebody dying, or this, that, and the other. It's not worth stressing over. You can't do anything. It is what it is, and that's the Big Lebowski's view. He's the dude, isn't he? He smokes a joint. Whatever happens, happens. Yeah.
Good. All right. I always think it's interesting to find out what somebody's film is, because especially after learning more about the journey, because I think what your favourite film is,
says a lot about, yeah.
It does. Like, a film is like the most effective way that you can tell a story now. You know, before it was like communication, then it's a book, and then every writer's dream is, I wish I could get a movie deal so my idea in my mind can be put into a story and brought to like visual life as well. So I think, like, for asking that question, understanding what someone's favourite film is what that story must resonate with you and why. Yeah. And I think, given the conversation that we've had, and that, you know, I think, be more free flowing.
Like I say, we should have a bigger convo, because I could tangent on that as well. There's a lot of things we could go more in depth on, like the film one.
We'll do it again. Nice.
Pleasure.
Nice one, man.
Thank you. The #1 podcast.